York, a drunk driver struck and killed two pedestrians in his neighborhood, and they were actually his childhood best friends. This all happened at around 6 p.m. on Friday, May the 15th, 2026, in the Morningside Heights area of the Upper West Side of Manhattan. The driver was 61-year-old Elvin Suarez, and he actually just lived 2 to 3 blocks away from where the accident happened. He had been living in that neighborhood for around 40 years. He was driving northbound when he sideswiped a Volkswagen and then plowed into the sidewalk with all of the pedestrians. He hit 4 people that were sitting outside a barbershop and then hit a parked Astro van that had a man inside. This caused a chain reaction and there were 7 total vehicles involved. Witnesses were in shock and they said that there were pedestrians penned between vehicles and it was an awful scene. The people sitting outside of the barbershop all knew each other and they were all friends, and the barbershop was kind of like a hangout spot for everyone. They also all knew Elvin, who was the driver that caused the incident. One of the victims was Michael Hilaire. He was 35, a father of triplets, and worked in the hospital operating room. And he actually was there waiting for his mom to get off the bus and had just texted her to let her know that he was outside waiting. The other victim was Jason Negron. He was 46 and a longtime doorman at a building nearby. He had just clocked out at 4 p.m. and was hanging out with the group. This story is a tragedy all the way around, and the entire community is reeling from what has happened. A woman in California met someone on TikTok, and now she, her 13-year-old son, and that person are all dead. At around 4:30 a.m. on May the 14th, 2026, crews responded to a fire at a home near West Whittier Boulevard in Los Angeles County. Neighbors told police that they heard a loud explosion and then saw the flames. Inside that home were Rossi Borquez and her 13-year-old son, Atiel Borquez, and her boyfriend of 8 months, whose name has not been released at this time so that family can be notified. Reports say Rossi ran from the burning home and she was severely burned and screaming for her son. They also state that her boyfriend ran from the home screaming. He was also severely burned and ran about 2 blocks down to where his parked car was before collapsing. Neighbors say that once police arrived and got to where he was yelling at them to take his life. Rossi and the boyfriend were taken to the hospital, but they had severe burns and they both later died from their injuries, and Atiel was found dead inside the house. Investigators have ruled it as intentional and say that it's related to a DV incident. They believe that the suspect entered the home, poured gasoline everywhere, and set the house on fire. Rossi also had an older daughter, and she says that her mom was the most hardworking, loving person you would ever meet. And everyone described Atiel as this sweet, kind kid in the neighborhood who everyone knew and loved. Rossi had met her boyfriend on TikTok, and they had been dating for about 8 months, but all of her friends say that he was extremely controlling and that it was a very toxic situation. Just days before the fire happened, he had actually taken Rossi's phone and contacted her family and told them not to contact her. He had accused her of cheating. He had been following her to when she was going to hang out with her friends and getting upset that he wasn't invited. And he had allegedly told her that he would never allow her to be with anyone else. What's even more heartbreaking is that Rossi was living in California as a refugee from DV. A lawsuit has been filed against Riverside County, California, after a police officer going 100 miles per hour hit a young couple that was running wedding errands, and now one of them is dead and one of them is suffering catastrophic injuries. The victims are Gavin Hinckley, who was 21 and the male driver of the vehicle, and Madeline or Maddie Fox, who is 20 and was the passenger in the vehicle. This happened on September 6, 2025, and Maddie and Gavin had been together for years. They had their wedding planned for October 25th, 2025. So on September 6th, they were out together running wedding errands in their gray 2018 Tesla Model 3. They were at the intersection of Cherry Valley Boulevard and Robert Street when the light turned green and Gavin accelerated to around 13 miles per hour to turn with the light. Gavin was making a left turn, and Deputy Glenn Allen Wilburn was headed westbound on Cherry Valley Boulevard. He was responding code 3 to a call, and the black box data from his car shows him at 100 miles per hour 5 seconds prior to impact. At 2 seconds before impact, he was still at 98 miles per hour with no brakes input. The deputy was not wearing a seatbelt, and it's believed that he saw the Tesla 1 second before impact because there's data showing that he swerved right before they hit. The deputy originally told police that he had slowed down sooner and that he was only going about 80 miles per hour, but that was disproven by the data from his car. Gavin lost his life immediately, and Maddie had catastrophic injuries. She suffered from a major TBI and several fractures. She was in an induced coma in the ICU for weeks, and she's had to learn how to swallow, walk, and do all kinds of basic things again. Gavin's parents are suing for wrongful death, and Maddie is suing for personal injury. They allege that this is recklessness and negligence on the deputy's part. But they also say that Riverside County is responsible for the unsafe slope, sightlines, and the poor signal timing. They also say that life-saving care was diverted because AMR took care of the deputy who only had minor injuries instead of going to the critically injured couple first. And that 911 failed to triage correctly and prioritize life support. Their attorneys say that this was not an accident. It was a preventable tragedy. Today is May the 18th, 2026, and I have an update on the Michaela Settles case, and I have a lot of emotions about it, so bear with me. Michaela's father, Stephen Vincent Chavez, was supposed to have court tomorrow for a preliminary hearing, but instead, everything got moved today because he pleaded guilty. He pleaded guilty to incest and providing alcohol to a minor, with sentencing enhancements because he took advantage of a position of trust and because she was particularly vulnerable. He has sentencing on June 23rd, 2026, and he's facing a maximum of 3 years in prison. So here's the issue. Michaela was Stephen's biological daughter, and she lived in North Carolina with her mom, but she had moved to California to move in with him for a fresh start and to go to college. He promised her that he would help with college and with transportation. She hadn't been there very long, and he got her drunk and brutally raped her. She immediately went to the hospital, reported it, had a kit done, did all of the right things. And after trying to heal and trying to deal with it, she ended up taking her own life because she couldn't handle it anymore. And now he's pleaded guilty to incest because he wasn't charged with it. Because under California law, the strength of the evidence didn't fit a rape charge. But Michaela told them that she didn't give consent, and she had been drinking, so she couldn't give consent. And Stephen Chavez admitted that he had provided her alcohol and she had been drinking. By all accounts, she was unable to give consent, and this was not consensual. But with what he's pleaded guilty to, he only faces a 3-year maximum and only has to register as an offender for 20 years, and then after that, he doesn't. That's why Michaela's family has been advocating for different charges. So while an admission of guilt feels like it's something good in the sense of justice, it also feels like such an injustice in this situation. My heart is broken for Michaela and Michaela's family, and I truly hope that his time in jail, however short it may be, is exactly what he deserves for it to be. Okay, so this mom in Flagstaff called police to a hotel where she was staying with her kids, and when they got there, they found that she had frozen her toddler. And on top of that, she was already on probation for DUI and assault. And this child had been removed because of DCS involvement before, and she had just gotten custody back in March of this year. So this all happened on Monday, May 17th, 2026 at around 9:30 a.m. This 31-year-old mother was staying at the La Quinta Inn & Suites in Flagstaff, Arizona. She called 911 that morning and told them that her child was dead. And when they asked her what happened, she said, "I killed him." When officers got there, they said they found her 15-month-old toddler. He was wrapped in a blanket, plastic, and tape, and also inside of a tote is what they described. The toddler's body temperature was just 26 degrees, and they determined that this toddler had been frozen for about 2 weeks. She had 2 other children in the room with her, ages 7 and 9, and they were both completely unharmed. She told police that on April 29th, she had gotten frustrated because her toddler was crying and being fussy, so she threw the toddler into the crib. She said after that, he stopped eating, became weak and pale, and then started running a fever, but she didn't take him to the doctor because she thought she was going to get in trouble. On May the 1st, she was scheduled to test for her probation, and when she checked on her toddler, she said he was no longer living. But she decided to leave him on the couch and go ahead and go to her appointment and come back 3 hours later. When she got home, she says that she wrapped the toddler up, put him in a tote, and put him in the freezer. The reports are a little confusing, but it looks like she was in an apartment when this happened, and the toddler was in the freezer there for around 14 days. And then after that, she moved out of that apartment into this hotel where she was staying with her kids the day she called police. Again, the reports are a little confusing. I was trying to figure out why she would be at this hotel room and where everything happened, and that's what I came up with from what I could find. The minor detail of why she was at the hotel might change. Apparently, when she was being arrested, she also kept saying that this toddler didn't deserve to die, that she had really messed up. But she's been booked into Coconino County Jail, and she has a $1 million cash-only bond. On May 10th, 2026, a 19-year-old University of Washington student lost their life while trying to do their laundry. This all happened at around 10 p.m. on May 10th at the Nordheim Court Apartments, which is an off-campus student apartment building. The victim was Juniper Blessing, a 19-year-old student from Santa Fe, New Mexico. Juniper was found on the floor of the laundry room with more than 40 sharp force injuries by another resident who called 911. Surveillance video was pulled and it showed Juniper entering the laundry room just before 9 p.m. with laundry and detergent, and returning about an hour later to clean the dryer lint tray, and that's when the suspect is seen also entering the laundry room. Police put out the surveillance looking for their suspect, and someone who was friends with the suspect actually called in and reported him, and then sent in a video to compare to the surveillance. The suspect was identified as Christopher Leahy, who is 31 and who is not a student. It's reported that he actually followed around several students that night and was showing erratic behavior. Police also state that he did not know Juniper Blessing. They also state that the lock to the laundry area, which is supposed to use a keypad, was often broken or not working. Leahy has been charged with first-degree premeditated murder, and his bail has been set at $10 million. Juniper was only 19 and majoring in atmospheric sciences, while also studying music and philosophy, and was explained by family as highly intelligent, extremely talented, and deeply in tune to the needs of others. And that Juniper's loss not only devastates them, but diminishes the world. In Dodge County, Wisconsin, a man is accused of taking his wife's life and then using her ring to propose to someone else. His name is Aaron Nelson. He's 43, and he's from Beaver Dam, Oakfield, Wisconsin. His wife's name was Alexis Nelson, and she was 42, and they had been married for 20 years. He was arrested on May 15th, 2026, and charged with taking her life. The last confirmed sighting of Alexis was March 29th, 2025 at a gas station. On March 30th, 2025, Aaron bought a 32-gallon trash can. On April 2nd, 2025, he created a new Facebook profile with a different name, James Nelson, and set his status as widowed. Then he met somebody new on Tinder and started dating her. At the end of May 2025, he moved in with his new girlfriend in Oakfield. And in June 2025, police got a search warrant for that new girlfriend's house, and when they searched it, they found that trash can, swabbed it, and it was positive for Alexis's DNA. When police were interviewing Aaron Nelson's new girlfriend, they noticed that she had a ring on her finger. Whenever they examined it, they realized that this was Alexis's wedding ring. Cadaver dogs also alerted to Aaron's vehicle and the apartment that he used to share with Alexis. He had been telling coworkers and friends and people that he met that Alexis was dead, but he kept telling them different reasons of how she died. Missing persons flyers started going up in February 2026 because still no one knew where Alexis was. And even though she's never been found, Aaron has now been arrested for taking her life. Okay, so let's talk about Gabby Gonzalez. Because Gabby was arrested May 15th, 2026 for a murder for hire plot. She's a TikTok creator who does lifestyle, travel, mom content. And she shares a 7-year-old daughter named Lavender with Jack Avery. Jack is a former member of a boy band called Why Don't We, and he's now a solo artist. And there are 2 other people implicated as helping her, including a civil trial lawyer and an ex-boyfriend. So the lawyer's name is Francisco Gonzalez, and he's 59, and he's actually Gabby's biological father as well. And the ex-boyfriend's name is Kai Cordery, who's 26. So it looks like Gabby and Avery had a years-long custody and visitation war over Lavender. Francisco became deeply involved, even hiring a private investigator to help Gabby catch Avery in the act of doing some things. This was around 2020, 2021. And then in March to April of 2021, Gabby asked her ex-boyfriend Cordery to find her a hitman on the dark web. They talked in detail about using Bitcoin so it couldn't be traced and staging it as a car accident, even mentioning that it was cheaper and easier than court battles. So on April 26, 2021, Francisco wires Cordery $10,000 and disguises it as web development. Cordery then puts it in a crypto account and uses the alias LizardKing69 to contact someone on the dark web, give them Avery's address in LA, and tell them to kill by any means necessary. Unfortunately for them, the person that he contacted was actually an undercover FBI agent. The agent asked Cordery for $4,000 more, and Cordery then asks Francisco for that money. So now they paid $14,000, and in September of 2021, the murder. So Cordery reaches out and says, Gabby really wants the murder done, and Francisco will pay. However, no criminal charges were filed at the time because they said they didn't believe that they had enough evidence for a strong case. The lead investigator got frustrated, handed the whole thing over to LA County last year, and they re-examined all of the evidence and talked to the witnesses. They rebuilt the case with stronger evidence, and they were able to get charges filed. They had planned to arrest Gabby in June when she was supposed to be returning lavender to Avery, but when she went radio silent and stopped communicating, they escalated things pretty quickly. So Gabby was arrested May 15th, 2026, trying to board a flight in Northern California. Francisco was arrested May 19th, 2026, in Florida, and Corddry has not been taken into custody yet. All three have been charged with attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and solicitation of murder. In Pennsylvania, 2 parents have been arrested for taking the life of their 1-day-old baby while still in the hospital. Their names are Kevin and Jennifer, and they are 28 and 25 years old. And this all happened in West Reading, Pennsylvania. Their baby boy was born on May 2nd, 2026 at 12:45 a.m. at the Tower Health Reading Hospital. There were no complications with delivery, and he was completely healthy at birth. The hospital staff noted suspicious behavior from Kevin in the recovery room, so much so that they even requested a social worker to come and speak to the family. They also requested security to that same recovery room. This newborn baby was left alone with his parents for only 25 minutes. And when someone entered for another wellness check, the baby was discovered in extreme distress, pale, gasping for air. And there was obvious signs of trauma, but the parents hadn't called for help at all. They just sat there and waited until the nurse came back in for the next wellness check. The baby was airlifted to another hospital and died the next day on May the 3rd, 2026. The autopsy determined that this baby died from multiple blunt force injuries and a multitude of internal injuries described by the medical examiner as extremely severe. So they ruled this baby's death a homicide, and a criminal complaint was filed on May 19th, 2026. Both Jennifer and Kevin were arrested on May 19th, and they are in custody without bail. In Long Island, New York, 3 women have been arrested for the prolonged of a defenseless 7-year-old girl. She had nearly 90 sharp force injuries on her body, and they documented the whole thing. Jordan Duncan was a 7-year-old girl in Long Island, New York, whose father was incarcerated and her mother lost custody. In December of 2024, CPS placed Jordan in the care of Emily Kelly. Emily is the fiancée of Jordan's biological father, who is incarcerated. Emily was granted full legal custody and guardianship, and Jordan moved into her Bayport home. Emily's mother, Barbara, age 75, and daughter, Alyssa, age 24, also lived in that home. These 3 women subjected Jordan to months of abuse, starting in January of 2025 and going on for about 11 months. She was tied up, locked down, refused medical care, and had sharp force injuries that had been inflicted over time. Between January and June of 2025, Jordan missed more than 40 days of school. And Emily always gave random excuses. She even told the school that they had taken a trip to Disney World, and that's why Jordan was absent. And Emily herself was documenting this abuse. She was taking pictures and videos, and the DA says that it was meticulously organized, like she was proud of what she was doing. On December 29, 2025, Emily called 911 telling them that Jordan was in cardiac arrest. She was taken to a hospital and she was pronounced dead there, and her cause of death, multiple sharp force injuries, had caused a massive infection that was left untreated. They were watching her deteriorate and documenting the whole thing. They were all 3 arrested yesterday, May 20th, 2026, and Emily's been charged with second-degree murder. Emily's mother, Barbara Renner, who is 75, has been charged with second-degree murder. And Emily's daughter, Alyssa Seymour, age 24, has been charged with unlawful imprisonment. CPS placed this little girl in the hands of this woman and did no follow-up when she missed over 40 days of school. Jordan was completely failed. In Arizona, a man has been arrested for breaking into the medical examiner's office to SA dead bodies. The suspect's name is Fenris Liu, and he's 31 years old. This all happened May 20th, 2026 at around 1:30 to 1:33 a.m. He broke into the Maricopa County Medical Examiner's office in downtown Phoenix. He was caught on camera using a crowbar to enter the office and then opening the seal to 11 body bags. He was also caught on camera SAing 4 of those male corpses. Police responded to the call of the break-in, and they found Liu inside, and he was taken into custody. He also has an attempting to escape custody charge, which means that there must have been some sort of hiding or trying to get away. He's got 8 felony counts for the break-in and the SA, and his bond's been set at $500,000 cash only. Court records have been sealed at this time, so the families of the victims can be notified that this happened to their loved one. Autopsies and organ donations have been halted, but some of these bodies were part of open investigations, which might hinder that process as well. 3 elementary school workers in Laredo, Texas just got arrested for allegedly abusing special needs children. including nonverbal autistic children, in their own classroom, and video evidence exists. This happened at Nye Elementary School, and it involves a special ed teacher, Laura Silas, and her 2 aides. Their names are Patricia Lopez and Martha Ramirez. This all came to light after a parent came forward and said that they believed something was happening to their child inside this classroom. So the school pulled the surveillance footage and realized that it was worse than they thought. All 3 women were being physically and verbally abused to all of the children in their classroom, and these are 6 to 8-year-old autistic, nonverbal children. An investigation began, but allegedly the principal didn't turn this over to police right away. Parents protested outside the school, and these 3 women were forced to resign. Then the principal, Cynthia Caballero, also resigned because allegations were being made that she knew about this and she didn't turn it over right when she knew. 8 families have been affected, and they're now represented by high-profile attorney Tony Busby. And Laura Silas also now has a tampering with evidence charge because there was an alleged cover-up. Because these are minors involved, a lot of the details are withheld, but what do you guys think should happen to these 3 teachers? And to the principal, who possibly knew and didn't do anything? Stuart McLean, a Canadian actor known for roles in Virgin River, The Supernatural, The 100, has been found dead after being reported missing. He was last seen at his residence in Lions Bay, British Columbia on May the 15th, 2026. He was reported missing on May 18th, and on May 20th, authorities said that they suspected foul play. His remains were found on May 22nd in the Lions Bay area, and authorities say that it's being investigated as a homicide. Lions Bay is a very tight-knit village with approximately 1,300 people that live there, so something like this is pretty shocking to have happened. This area is considered very safe, and there were no prior reports or drama surrounding this. And police are withholding all of the details, so the locals are asking, what aren't they saying? This couple in Utah was arrested on May 6, 2026 for taking the life of their son, and video evidence existed. But they were released from jail because prosecutors missed Utah's 72-hour charging window. On September 21, 2025, Brigham Merrill called 911 to let authorities know that he had found his son hanging in an upstairs bedroom. His name was Moroni Merrill, and he was 11 years old. Police found Brigham kneeling near the child but not performing CPR, and they determined pretty quickly that this was not what it looked like. Everything was inconsistent with the child doing this to himself. And surveillance video from inside the home showed Brigham carrying the child upstairs to where this scene was staged. Another child also told investigators that they had seen their brother die during punishment from Brigham. Investigators found a years-long pattern of abuse, including physical and verbal. This home was a nightmare, including food restriction, physical punishment, and even locking the children into a dog cage. And almost all of these things were caught on home surveillance. So both parents were arrested on May 6th and charged with taking their child's life, along with all of the abuse that was uncovered. But on May 13th, 2026, they were both released because prosecutors missed that 72-hour window to file charges. The police department even released a statement saying that they had worked diligently for months and put together a very strong case for this child. They wanted people to know that the decision rested with the Elder County Attorney's Office. The Elder County Attorney's Office says that they are still actively reviewing the case and that it remains open and active. However, because of their inaction, these parents have been released, and an entire community is demanding answers and protection for the surviving kids.